Good Sunday morning and welcome inside the scores table. Brian Haenchen and Danny Riego here with you on the heels of what was an absolutely bonkers, wildly unpredictable, and totally chaotic regional championship Saturday. Oh my God, Danny.
I know. I know. Sectionals was a preview of what was going to happen in regionals. We shouldn't be surprised, but there is officially zero people that I probably had Pike, Warsaw, Homestead, HSE, all those teams out. Like it's crazy. But congratulations to the 8 teams per class that are moving on. You're in the final 4 of your hemisphere, and it's a reality now.
It's what a day. Today's show will be joined by Lola Lampley here in about 15 minutes. Kyle Smedley will be with us to talk about the games up north. Rob Hunt managed to pull off the triple header. He saw Alex O'Kill, Lapel, Rensselaer Central, and Pendleton Heights Center Grove. Kyle Sokeland was all over things in the Evansville area, and Danny and I, of course, were at Greencastle, and that's where we're going to start our discussions today. And I think, Danny, the biggest game from there, we agreed, is that win for Lawrence Central over Pike. And I'll start the conversation with this. Defensively might have been the most impressive aspect of that game for Lawrence Central. And I think also it speaks to that team's growth. I mentioned it here on the show before, I've written it before, but Janon Lampley kind of altered her coaching style where it became more of, rather than expecting her players to get to where she was, she came back and met the players where they were, simplified things, and kind of helped bring them up to where she wanted to get them. And it's really paying dividends, and you can see that just with the intensity. I mean, they had Pike looking lost out there for entire stretch of that game. That was really, really impressive. I mean, just the blocks, the steals, anything and everything. She complimented and made a point to point out just how good a shooting team Pike is, and especially with those guards. Well, they countered that with their forwards and kind of challenged them to step up. Lola Lampley, I thought, did an excellent job, and McKenzie was huge. Aubrey Ingram had the 6 or 7 steals. Kiki Butler, we need to talk about her, obviously. That was a very vintage performance, but I'll hand it over to you to continue.
No, listen, I think anybody that watched that game, if you watched it without, any preconceived notion or expectation, Coach Lampley coached a gem. And let me corroborate it with this. I didn't plan necessarily on this being the first thing that I had said. I've already been to workouts today, been in the gym, and that there were 2 people that walked up to me and said the exact same thing. And I was not testifying, by the way. They just came up and they were like, Coach Lampley was great. LC was great. Their game plan was great. That was the stuff that was coming out. And so here we are, a day removed from the number 1 team going down. And the morning after, that's the narrative. I think all of the things that we're going to talk about, I think we'll come back to the great week of preparation, the install, and the execution, particularly in the first half of everything to do with Lawrence Central's game plan. But yeah, I mean, there's your bouquet, Coach Lampley, because she was really good.
That was just excellent. I mean, you turn around, you lost that team by 20, 30 points during the regular season, and the message was they're the best team now. We want to be the best team in February, and they proved as much there last night. Let's zero in on some specific players, and I think the one to start with, since we're going to have Lola on here in a bit, I think is Kiki Butler. She was held scoreless the first time that they played, and one of the things that Janon said was they were a little hard on her. They got after her and said, hey, you need to be who they say you are, and you need to show them. And she said that they really challenged her and gave her these 4 things. I think she said they were in envelopes. Basically, she said, these are the 4 things we need from you. And rather than take it personally or pout or whatever, Kiki, as I think most of us would have expected, took it to heart and accepted the challenge. And man, she stepped up. She finished with a game high, I think it was 25 points, brilliant on the defensive end, some clutch free throws from her. That was the Kiki Butler we became accustomed to see during last year's state championship run at LN.
Did she score in the first matchup against Pike? I don't remember the exact box score, but okay. Listen, you got to tip your cap to that kid, man. There were so many eyeballs on her and what she was going to do. I think that was a big storyline coming into it. It was they got beat and Kiki did this in the first game. I had said that I thought Northridge is one example of giving me Lawrence North vibes of the past. When watching this game last night, and particularly the performance of Kiki Butler, I was getting Kiki Butler vibes off that same Lawrence North team. You called it vintage Kiki. That's exactly what it was. That's a great way to put it. She scored the ball. She was impactful. She was hitting post position. She was handling the basketball. She was making her free throws. And when else have we seen this? Like, we've seen it during Lawrence North's run last year due to the state championship. She was, I mean, if you go back and like rewatch those episodes, Hank, like that's what we were saying. Like, Kiki's the best player on the floor. Kiki's the best player on the floor. Kiki's the best player on the floor. She was so impactful last night. And I think we all need to have an appreciation for the kid who did it last year in the same class and won a state championship with vintage performances like that. And we saw another last night and they took out number one. So here they are sitting on the number one line.
One other note on LC before we talk about Pike and then shift to the other game. The rebounding was a big factor. They gave up 9 offensive rebounds, but and there were little stretches, I guess, in the third quarter when Pike went on that 10-2 run where maybe it felt like they were starting to take control a little bit there with just the second chance opportunities. But overall, I thought LC did a good job crashing the boards and largely kind of limiting Pike's effectiveness on the offensive glass and kind of limiting those second chance opportunities for a team that's kind of their bread and butter overall.
Correct. It is their bread and butter. Booker and Jeffers particularly, and it's not just those two, are relentless in crashing the offensive glass. So their ability to control the glass was really big. I will add 2 things to that. I thought their tempo was very good last night in the first half. I think a lot of people walked out of that game and was like, well, how come Pike didn't run? How come they didn't extend the floor? How come they didn't do this? And I think it was completely by design by Lawrence Central. They had long possessions in the first half. They were very deliberate with their actions and what they wanted to do. They weren't taking the first good shot that they had. They were working the offense. They played through the players that they needed to be playing through, but they controlled the tempo. And one of the reasons why Pike had an inability to run in transition in the first half was because they did such a good job in controlling the tempo and handling the basketball. The second thing that I would point out, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the rebounding battle, man, they guarded that middle ball screen. They were brilliant in that last night. Like, it got to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, like this is another one of Pike's bread and butter concepts, is that middle ball screen and attacking players and getting duck-ins with Jeffers and getting high-low rises with Evans and getting Mitchell downhill and all of that. And I just felt like any time that they ran that action, there was always McKenzie and there was always Lola Lampley and there was always people in the way in the middle of the floor. Pike had to really get out of what their bread and butter was and adjust. And that's a really difficult thing to do when you create your identity through a 20-game season. And then in the first half, Lawrence North makes your identity relatively ineffective. Again, they guarded the middle of the floor really, really well. And it was certainly something that kept Pike off balance, I think, in the first half.
Credit to Pike, they kind of unlocked that level of urgency necessary to win this time of year, a level that I thought LC had from the jump. And I'm not saying that Pike didn't, but it was certainly more noticeable on the LC side, just that desperation, that sense of urgency. They got that there in the third quarter. It seemed like the freshmen were kind of leading the charge when they go on that 10-2 run to get back into the game. And it looked like LC was gassed, and they were gassed. And we'll talk to Lola about this here in a second. But she in particular, that poor kid was getting run all over the place, had tough defensive assignments and everything. Credit to her for digging deep, but it felt like that moment was where Pike was going to come back. And they did a good job of kind of hanging around. And then I think Lola misses 2 free throws. Pike has possession. This is the moment. They're going to do it. They've beaten down their opponent. Now they're going to make the run and pull ahead. Instead, they go down there. They make kind of a rushed pass, I think, to the left side in front of the Pike bench and turn it over. They're forced to foul, and suddenly LC jumps right back into control. That was the game right there. But it was kind of a microcosm. Like, there were some moments like that, some mental mistakes throughout the game that just kind of stacked up and added up and kept Pike from fully getting back into that game and taking the lead and potentially advancing.
I think that's a really good read. It almost came as if it was from nowhere too. Like I would, and you'll just have to believe me when I tell you this. I had sent a text in a group thread. This thing's probably over. And then I set my phone down, and it was probably a 14-point game in favor of Lawrence Central. And it goes into the fourth quarter, a 5-point game. Like, that was an explosive run, and they were able to get transit. They were able to get into the open floor. That's definitely what was going to be there. They just spotted them too many. I think Pike really, they were able to get their transition game. I think Keith probably knew that was how the way that they had to get it done was to get stops and get transition and get those players, those electric players in the open floor. And I think they successfully did that in the second half. It just was probably a little too insurmountable. But it was a classy comeback by Pike because they fought and they didn't have their best stuff. I thought they were kept off balance. And here's the other thing too. Like, let me add this, and I don't want to go like too far off the tangent, but when you control tempo, the way that I said Lawrence Central did, the way that Pike substitutes and the way that they rotate, there is if you go by time, say, hey, Nicholson and Mitchell, for example, 4 minutes. Normally, when you watch Pike play, that might be 15 possessions. In this game, it was 4 or 5 possessions. So their tempo, Lawrence Central's tempo, controlled kind of the amount of possessions. So when Keith was getting into his bench, which was a huge advantage that Pike had coming into this game, the kids coming out maybe didn't have as much volume or opportunity that they had. And I think it was really hard for them to really kind of catch rhythm. I think that's what you saw in the comeback was they were able to get more possessions in the game. They caught a little bit of rhythm. It was just probably a little bit too late. And again, I credit the first half for Lawrence Central because they were just so good with the tempo.
There was one spot there, a couple of spots where it's like, oh my God, is Lawrence Central playing stall ball? Because it was such a methodical pace. And it's partially because it was kind of standing there for a bit, but then also just because you're so used to them playing that frenetic pace, but then the adjustments that they made, the work that they put into practice. I mean, cannot say enough about what they did there in response to that game. Danny, do you have a parting thought here before we bring on Lola to break it down with her?
Didn't you just feel like, though, like this is my closing thought. Didn't you just feel like the entire game was Lola and Kiki's and that they were going to ask Hyatt to make shots and they were going to ask Mackenzie to do certain things. And those kids did them. But every time you looked up, Lola had the basketball. Every time you looked up, Lola was guarding the basketball. Every time you looked up, it was Kiki at the free throw line. That's not an accident. They played through those kids and they delivered last night.
I would spin that as it was the seniors. Like,
okay,
I think in week and building it up because Anaya Mackenzie had some big shots to get going early, what she did defensively. We mentioned what Aubrey Ingram did defensively with all those steals. And then, like you mentioned, on the offensive side, it was certainly everything through Lola and Kiki as it should be. And I think that's probably the best recipe for success with this team moving forward. And that's a discussion we'll have to have here too after we get Lola on here. But with that, Danny, let's go ahead and bring on our first guest of the morning. We're joined now by Lola Lampley. I think Lola is officially our first McDonald's All-American to be on the show, which is a fun and exciting thing for us. Lola, congratulations on the win last night. How are you feeling?
I feel great, honestly. My body is so tired and sore, but I'd rather have this kind of pain with a win, so I'm not complaining.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the rebounding. Talking to you and your mom last night after the game, it seems like that was kind of the big focal point going in there last night.
Yes, 100%. Every day in practice, I don't think we didn't have a rebounding drill. We drilled that every single day. We make sure everybody on the court is rebounding. There's not one person that rebounding is not their job. So that was super important to us, and we feel that rebounds win championships. So that's kind of the motto we try to drill into our team, and that's obviously what you got to see yesterday. So.
Hey, Lola, congratulations on McDonald's All-American candidacy. Congratulations on LSU. Congratulations on everything that you have going on. And lastly, congratulations on last night. You were very, very special, and it was very fun to watch. I want to ask you about one of the comments that I had made kind of leading up to it. Like, it seemed like you had a different look about you last night. Playing the point guard, controlling the tempo, being a leader. Not to say that you don't do those things throughout the year, but it had a different look about it last night. Is my read right? Did you just go into that being like, you know what? It's gonna be me. It's gonna be, like Hank said, the rest of the seniors. So what was your mindset going into that game?
Yeah, I feel like tournament time always brings out a different version of me. Anytime, a different level competition. It's different when it's a win or go home. You know what I mean? So I definitely would say it was a different me yesterday, and I just wanted it so bad. Me and my team, we all just wanted it so bad. Everybody bought in. So it was taking care of every possession was super important to me. I didn't want to leave with any regrets, so I put it all out on the floor yesterday.
Lola, you won a state championship 2 years ago for Lawrence. Kiki, your backcourt mate, won a state championship last year, both out of Lawrence schools. I'm going to kind of take it off tangent. Look, this is what we do in Indy. You know this. You come from an Indy family. You guys you're cut from the cloth in this city, and that's what we do. We hoop. But you guys do it different in Lawrence. Talk about Lawrence basketball and why you guys put it together this time of year. And it's just you guys, again, the same district at the center of the conversation in 4A. Talk about what Lawrence basketball is and what it means to you.
Yes, it definitely means a lot. Both schools, we both compete so hard. We want it so bad. Just putting our schools out there on the map is super important to both of us. We both play so hard. Have good system kids, good culture kids. So it means a lot for sure. That both programs are both doing so well. So it means a lot.
I want to add, and I'll. This will be my last question. I want you to talk about Hyatt, and here's the reason why. I think her 3-point shooting was the top of everybody's scouting report. It was a major storyline going into it, largely due to how impactful your seniors were. But she hit the big threes down at Cooper. She opened the game with 3 threes in the first 4 possessions against North Central in the sectional, and then she hit the monster in the left corner in the second half of this one. I mean, this kid's progression is ridiculous. I mean, can you just talk about her and how important it is? But her shot making has been at a premium, I think, all season. But tell us what we missed on her.
Yeah, for one, I'm just so proud of Lily. I feel like she's grown so much over the years that I've got to see her grow. I feel like last year she probably wouldn't have took any of those shots. Maybe one, but she wouldn't have realized that she was hot and kept going. So I'm super proud, but it's no shocker. If you see the work that she puts in, like after practice, during practice, it's no surprise to me. She's built for this moment. She prepared herself so well. She shoots great in practice and she puts in so much work. So I'm super proud of her for building her confidence. And just as much as our seniors giving her the confidence too, we let her know, like, we want you to shoot those shots. If anything, it helps us even more. Make or miss, it gives us a good look. So we gave her that confidence, and I'm just glad that, she stepped into the position and thrived. So I'm so happy for her.
Lola, was there a concerted effort by you guys to kind of control tempo last night and to slow things down versus trying to keep up with Pike?
100%. We know, with due respect, they definitely have a great crowd. They definitely will change the environment in a heartbeat. So we knew that we just needed to stay under control, stay poised, and it's just about us. That's kind of every time we'd huddle up. That's, a couple of the things we always said to each other when it got loud. When they got momentum a little bit, we tried to always come back and stay composed. So yeah, definitely.
With playing slower, was that kind of a unique thing to Pike, or have you guys had to do that against other teams earlier in the season where you have to slow it down and take the air out of the ball a little bit?
Yeah, not just Pike. We kind of try to make that our identity. It's about us. That's always what we say. So we try to get back under control, take control of the tempo, kind of like you got to see yesterday. We don't try to play into the speed of other teams. We try to make sure we stay within ourselves. So yeah, definitely just in general.
I'll ask you about another one of your teammates, Kiki, last night. I mean, she gets held scoreless against Pike the first time around. Last night finishes with the game high. What was it, I think 22. I mean, she was phenomenal last night. If you could just talk about what you saw from that kid.
Yes, again, another one that I'm just so super proud of. Every single day she gets better. Even still kind of just learning the system a little bit, but you wouldn't even be able to tell. I'm just super proud of what she's been putting out on the floor. She definitely helps me a lot. She does a lot for our team. We all love her. She's a great teammate. Besides what she can do with the ball in her hands, she's a great teammate. She works so hard. Great leader. And yeah, I'm just proud and excited to see what else she can do.
We see the strides outwardly, obviously, during games that you guys and how you've grown and pieces are coming together. When could you kind of feel this group finally starting to stabilize and everybody kind of starting to settle into their roles and feel like, when did you start feeling good, really good, and building momentum with this group?
To be honest, the last couple weeks of practice, like I explained to you yesterday, our coaching staff, we didn't have not one easy day of practice, but it was all planned to prepare us for these moments. So we hit so much adversity and we got over it. And that in general just built trust within all of our team. So we trusted each other that when we hit those moments that, nobody folded, nobody's going to quit. So I feel like these last 3 weeks of practice, it showed all of that. And and definitely helped us yesterday. Just having trust in one another is super important. So definitely these weeks.
I'll let you have the floor and to brag on that coaching staff. I mean, they did a phenomenal job last night.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. 100%. Like I said, loudly, the best coaching staff ever, like ever. When it comes down to the scouts, they had everything broke down. They pushed us in practice. Like I said, we didn't have not one easy day. On the court, you see we have cards. And even my dad, you got to see yesterday. Just everybody bought in, and sleepless nights. Even when we're not practicing, our coaches are always in there working on something to help us get better. So each day they were prepared with a new plan, and we kind of just followed it. So yeah, definitely the best coaching staff for sure.
And then one last question for you, Lola. This season, the opportunity to kind of be not the underdog, but a little bit more under the radar than what this group has been accustomed to. How did that help you guys get to this point and give you time, I guess, just the time and the chance to kind of build this thing to get to where you are?
Oh, it helped a lot. Me personally, I've always liked being the underdog. I like to hunt, and that's kind of, we all kind of had that mindset. It was actually like pretty fun for us. It was being hungry for once, not always being number one, actually, hunting for something. So it felt good. And I'm excited that, we made history yesterday. We've never beat a number one team. So we got to do that yesterday. So just playing with that chip on our shoulder, having more to play for than, just the game. It felt really good.
I suppose it's hard to beat the number one team when you are the number one team most weeks. So I guess that
Right.
I guess that makes sense. That's got to get tiresome though, always being like the hunted? Like, did that kind of, I don't know where's the right word, but does it kind of take its toll on a team when you're that highly ranked and that high expectations all the time?
I mean, not really. Just kind of got to keep living up to it, and you gotta. You're not number one for no reason. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't say it's more tiring, but you definitely have to be more focused, and you're going to get everyone's best game. So it's a good thing. It's a different mindset. Obviously, from us not being number one, I kind of have a different mindset than what I would if we were number one. So, but it definitely feels better, doing the hunting, I would say.
Sure. Awesome. Well, Lola, thank you so much for hopping on with us. Congratulations again, and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care. Lola Lampley of Lawrence Central with us here on the Scorer's Table.
That's a great question about the hunting. They won a lot of basketball games en route to their state championship a couple of years ago by striking fear in their opponents. And I'm not saying that people weren't scared of them this year, but it was kind of the other way around, right? They were trying to ascend to that same level, but I'm not sure that doesn't completely change based on what happened last night. Like I would be petrified. I would be petrified to play them right now. Like, and how is the team with Lola Lampley and Kiki Butler, like not the number one team in the state? Like that is how impressive that was. But what a cheat code for them to be able to play as the underdog and channel motivation that way. That's crazy. But I think everything flipped last night. I'm not sure what the computers say. I'm not sure what the public opinion says. But I'm also not sure that they're not the favorite in the South now. Absolutely.
I agree. I think they are. They're not invincible. I don't think anybody is. Certainly not the way that Center Grove just continues to find ways to win games, which we'll talk about here with Rob in a second. Just the way that they continue to find ways to win games and the way that they defend and everything that we always talk about with Center Grove. But I think pound for pound, it's certainly the most talented team left in the state. And I mean, I don't know how you can argue that with the number of D1 kids that they have and the high-end talent they have. Danny, we have 5 minutes before we have to bring on Rob. Emphasis on have to. So let's talk quickly about Roncalli versus Cathedral. I mean, Elliot Leffler, oh my gosh, 14 points in the fourth quarter alone. She breaks loose. Roncalli finds a way to win at the end with her sinking a couple free throws. Tip of the cap to Cathedral on an excellent season, but that Roncalli team still hasn't lost since that Marion County Championship game since in December.
What a great game. And you led with Leffler. And so here's the thing. I think that game toward the end was like these little mini, we'll call them like episodes, right? Like Cathedral's at the line, misses 2 foul shots. They get an offensive rebound on the second one, get a putback that ties the game. Then Leffler goes to the line and misses 2, and you guys will know why I don't really want to point that out that they missed it, but you'll know why I mentioned that Leffler missed 2 free throws. You'll know why I mentioned that when I say that she immediately gets to the line again and immediately makes 2. Like, what a quick memory to be able to get to the line, and that is big moment winning time DNA that's in that kid. And I think she showed us something last night. Elliot Loeffler should be really proud, but that game boiling down to these like little episodes, this possession, this free throw box out, that free throw box out, this baseline out of bounds play.
Yeah.
Things like that, these little mini episodes. And Roncalli, honestly, they just won one more of those episodes than Cathedral did, because Cathedral was really, really good last night. But you know, it's Loeffler who executes perfectly on the baseline out of bounds play, walks to the line, having missed 2 minutes before, not game minutes, like real-time minutes before, and stepping up and finding the net to move them on into the semi-state. A really nice performance by Roncalli.
Just, I mean, the way that too, like she just, and again, it's like the maturity thing, like we talk about with Grayson Gilliard, where instead of forcing things when it isn't going her way, trying to do too much against the face guard and the defensive Cathedral was playing on her, she let her teammates step up and pass it off to her teammates and got them involved. And then she started to do her thing in the fourth quarter, which I think is really impressive and a sign of a kid who's growing up. On the Cathedral side, Precious Anuka was unbelievable at the start. Her getting into foul trouble. You and I talked about this a little bit last night, kind of hurt Cathedral a little bit, but Caroline Wiggins stepped up massively. Taylor Babington hit a couple shots there late. Like, they had some big time contributors from Cathedral, and a team and a group that exceeded expectations. I think I asked Lisa Finn about that. She said certainly a 21 season for them. And Jason Sims, before we even talked about anything that happened for his team, said Lisa Finn is coach of the year for the state. No questions asked, just for the job that she's done in elevating that team and getting them to where they, you know, went toe to toe with the number 1 team in Class 3A.
I talked to Jason after the game, and the dude looked like he just went 12 rounds.
Yeah.
Like, he was like groggy and like, oh my God. But what he was saying outside of the tone in which he was saying it, was that Cathedral really bothered them. Like, the game plan was really good. Cathedral told us they got some players. Here's what's interesting about that. That was Roncalli. A lot of people felt really good about Roncalli and not as good about Cathedral going into that game. Don't tell the people that on 56th Street, like, they felt like they were good, but they came out nervous, like very, very nervous. You could see, like, there was no aggression on the offensive side. I think they dropped down 11-2, maybe 13-2. Coach Finn has to call a timeout, but they come out of that timeout, and she just gave her kids the opportunity to reset. And when they reset, they attacked, and Roncalli had trouble guarding them. Anuka was at the head of that. Wiggins started to feel a little bit more comfortable. But that was, I think, one of the things that I think made Jason Sims seem so groggy and worn out after the game was he had to deal with multiple players that were relentless in attacking the goal and attacking the offensive glass and the defensive game plan that Coach Finn put in. Roncalli earned their way into it. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times in high school sports, you know, they're young kids, right? I mean, if you don't have your best stuff, your season's over. Okay. Like, it just is. But Cathedral was good enough to beat Roncalli. Jason knows it, and they did it. And they have to feel really, really good about getting to the third weekend, because they earned it.
It was 11-2 at one point after Reagan Turk had a steal and a score. And then Maddie Watko kind of got Cathedral going with a 3-pointer. Anuka follows with a 3-pointer. Then Anuka, I think she started a 9-0 run with back-to-back baskets, a driving 2, which I have noted here, and then another 2 that's bolded. So I'm assuming she did something crazy there. And suddenly it's a 3-point game at the end of the first quarter. And then, like I said, it extends into a 9-0 run. The big thing too with Cathedral is what they did defensively. And that was something that Sims talked to me about, was just their ability to control tempo. Like, they got Roncalli playing the type of game that they wanted them to play and forced them to slow it down and stuff them inside that half court, and did a really good job defensively against a pretty prolific Roncalli outfit.
Well, and they do something like, you know, they try to eliminate things like ball reversal. It was a big storyline how they were going to play the middle ball screen that Roncalli likes to run. They played it in drops, so the wings have to hold into the corner. There was always somebody waiting for him at the rim. Different things that I think they did that Coach Lisa put in during the week that, quite honestly, worked. And the fourth quarter of that game was just kids making plays. Like Wiggins getting an offensive rebound when they're down 2 inside a minute to tie it is a major league play. Not to be outdone, Loeffler did the exact, or I can't remember who got the offensive rebound. I want to be able to give her flowers. If we don't come up with it, but they also missed on the Loeffler second free throw. They got the offensive rebound too. Those are not X's O's. That's not implementation, right? Those are players making plays. And that is what's really neat. And Jason and Lisa will take that, right? I mean, they just want to give their kids the opportunity to make plays. Like I said, Roncalli just made one. They literally just made one more.
Yeah, phenomenal. Cathedral, by the way, one last note before we move on, but 6-0 run for Cathedral to end the third. Sims calls a timeout somewhere in that run, tells them, stick through it, we'll be fine. Loeffler, I think, likened it to like smelling blood in the water kind of thing. Or they were out for blood, to start the fourth if they were down. That was the mentality that they had. And sure enough, right out of the gate, she delivers a 3-point play. They run a set for her. She flashes open. Cerny dumps it into her. Loeffler finishes through contact, and you just feel the energy shift. And then they force turnovers, I think, on the next 3 possessions after that, where it was that 10-second call, then a charge. So, just 2 of them. 5-second, 10-second, and then a charge. 3 turnovers in a row, and you just feel the momentum swing. And the fact that Cathedral weathered that and still came back is impressive. Because then you have Caroline Wiggins breaking up the 9-0 run with a 3-point play to get them within 1 before she ties it with a pretty slick baseline maneuver to tie it at 42. I think also off of an offensive rebound or a set, one of the two. Either way, really impressive showing by them. Nothing really for Cathedral to hang their heads about. That was a phenomenal game all around. Really fun to watch, and it was a great start to the day. With that, Danny, we're going to go ahead and bring on our buddy Rob Hunt. Rob had 3 games yesterday. He was up. He had Lapel, Rensselaer Central. He had Alex Oak Hill, and then he had Pendleton Heights, Center Grove. We talked about Lawrence Central at the beginning. I feel like we should probably just stay in the 4A ranks and talk about Pendleton Heights, Center Grove, because Rob, Pendleton Heights had Center Grove there on the ropes for stretches.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like I think it was kind of deja vu for Pendleton Heights after what happened last year. I mean, Mamie Trout hits that jumper at the buzzer to close out the first half. They're up 8. Jones gets a score to start the third quarter. Now they're up 10 on the number 2 team in the state, and that's when Gilliard kind of took over offensively, and then on the other end, Pendleton Heights couldn't score. I think they had Jones hit a free throw, and that for a while that was their only point in the fourth quarter. By the time they got a field goal, they were. I think I phrased it in the story I wrote. Huffer gets an and 1, but by that time she was just cutting an 8-point deficit down to 5. When the last field goal they had given Pendleton Heights a 10-point lead, it was just a remarkable turnaround. And give Center Grove credit. I mean, obviously they're unbeaten for a reason. They find a way.
What were they doing for both of you guys? What were they doing, Pendleton Heights, to have the success that they did against that Center Grove defense? I mean, they were carving up there a little bit in stretches.
Yeah, I thought they were. Huffer had a nice game, but I mean, they were kind of doing a little bit of everything. Warfel hits a couple early threes. They were getting the ball inside to Huffer. Jones had a couple drives back, I think, and they were taking care of the ball. They didn't turn it over a great deal in the first half, but then during that run that Center Grove got on late in that third quarter, I think Gilliard scored 6 straight points and went on kind of a personal 10-2 run or something like that. You were just talking about turnovers in the other game. 4 straight possessions, Pendleton Heights turned it over, didn't even get a shot, and that was part of that. That was kind of where things turned the other way. When they were taking care of the ball, they were pretty tough to stop. I thought they handled themselves really well until the turnover bug bit them.
What did you think of Gilliard, Rob?
Man, she's as advertised. She's got some size. She's quick. She can score inside. She didn't step outside a lot, but I think she hit one big perimeter jumper that was it was big in the moment when she made it. So, as advertised, I definitely, she definitely belongs in that Miss Basketball conversation.
I talked about with Gilliard specifically, like Rob, I've been saying through the year that I think she's the toughest individual singular player to guard in the state. And you've referenced now twice that run. Like Pendleton Heights is up 31-21. I have it in my head as scoring 10 points in the third quarter. You said 6 straight. I thought it might have been 8 straight.
I think it was 8.
Yeah, I think it was 8 straight. And it was like in a mean way too. It was like stealing the ball, bullying you through contact. But it was a really like again, it's like Lilia Tapak. Again, like 5 of 6 from the free throw line. She hits the monster 3 that ties it. I mean, it's not just Gilliard. Like, what did you like? It's not just Gilliard, right? It's not like Gilliard had like she had 38 against HSE, and that was what it was. Like, they get timely shooting and opportunistic production from other players. What did you see in regards to that comment?
It's very similar to what you say, but I also thought that they play together as a unit really well, especially once they got the lead. They just made no mistakes. They possessed the ball. They were only taking they were taking smart shots. That they play I thought they played very well together and with some intelligence. Yes, Gilliard gets a lot of the headlines, but they got 3 other kids that average that 8-9 point type of area, which they can hit some shots, and they did last night. Like you said, those free throws were big. Number 3, I'm sorry, escapes my name. Her name escapes my memory, but she hits a big shot, and they were great defensively too. So they kind of and I think they kind of feed off their star, and I think that possibly applies to one of the other teams you might want me to talk about here in a few minutes. But I that was my takeaway, and I maybe somebody beats them later in the tournament. I know there's some great 4A teams in this tournament, but they certainly impressed me. I think that they're going to be a tough out.
Can you describe for us just very quickly, like, what was the environment like? And the reason why I ask that is because when I watched that stream and I watched it beginning to end, I felt like I could detect how tense it was in that gym. Mm-hmm. Describe for me the environment.
And this really applies to all 3 venues I was at yesterday. I thought their crowd sizes were excellent, but specifically at Greenfield, it was very intense. You could feel it. You could feel it from the Center Grove fans because, they're undefeated. They don't want that to end. And you could feel it from Pendleton Heights because they wanted this so bad after what happened last year and with the season they've had, and just how beloved they only have 2 seniors, so there's a lot coming back, but how beloved those 2 seniors are by the whole community. There was a lot of, you could definitely feel the intensity in there, and it went right down to the very wire.
Let's pause before we jump over to Lapel. Sure. Olivia Jones, Coach kind of talked about just how she kind of came into her own this year, really got a chance to spread her wings offensively. Rob, you and I have talked a lot just about her growth and development over the past 2 seasons, but that kid, big moments last night, hit some huge shots for them.
Yeah, and that's kind of always been her MO, and I've said it many times publicly. I think she might be one of the more underrated. I say the most underrated player in the state. I don't know how you apply that, but that's a little bit of personal bias because I really like the kid. But she's always been overshadowed at Pendleton, right? A couple years playing with Casey Warfel, and now Hupper is the headliner there. But she's always been that kid who just makes all the plays. She scores. She typically is one of those kids that defends the other team's best player. She makes smart plays. She's just a great kid. She maybe makes a run at scoring 1,000 points herself if she doesn't miss a few games earlier this year with an injury. And I think that but I don't think if that even mattered to her. She's such an unselfish kid. And there were a lot of tears being cried on that side. And a lot of it was because those kids were playing their last game with Olivia. She's beloved.
Yeah. Your first game of the day, Lapel, that was a shellacking, 63-42 over Rensselaer Central. Lanaya Wills, 22 points. Eddie Bodenhorn, 18 points. Let's start with Lanaya. That kid, just unbelievable.
Yeah, maybe and I don't want to tip off the next school they play, whoever that is, when we find out on the epic semi-state reveal show that we all love. But I don't want to tip off the student section, but maybe don't chant overrated at her.
It never ages well, Rob. No. It never ages well.
I'm telling you what, as soon as they started, I was like, are they kidding? I don't know what they're – and it's not like Rensselaer comes from nowhere. They know what good basketball talent is. They've been to the state finals, and I mean, why poke the bear at that point? She's just, and she played great all day. She was, a lot of putback baskets, a lot of second chance points. Lapel absolutely dominated on the glass, which I thought was going to be big going in. She was a part of that, but it was a team effort. Her greatness is never diminished, just never diminishes. She seems to look better every time I see her play.
I thought Coach Newby was really good. I thought his plan was very good. I liked how he took Lanaya and gave rim protection to everybody, placing her right in the middle. I thought they rotated really well out of that. And then you get your kids making plays. Rob, did I see this correctly? In the final play of the first half, when Lanaya stole the basketball and laid it in for a 5-point lead, which seemed like it was a bigger lead than 5 when it happened, did I see Newby on a dead sprint following her down the floor and then straight into the locker room?
I can't 100% confirm that, but it wouldn't surprise me. They were very excited at the end of that half. I mean, and that play was big, but I think she had a block a moment earlier and also scored at the other. Lapel really finished that half strong, which I thought was big at the moment, because it was we forget looking at the final score. It was kind of a back and forth first half, which is what we all expected it was going to be throughout the day. And, I think they really Rensselaer devoted a lot more attention on Lanaya in the second half, keeping her away from the back or from dominating inside. And that opened up some things outside. And we saw some stuff from Lapel that if they continue to do that, they are going to be a tough out. I mean, if they hit three like they did yesterday, holy cow.
Well, Coach Radke's not new, right? I mean, guy coached in the state championship last year. So, like you just talked about, kind of what my next question was going to be is, like, what was different in the second half? Like, it really was back and forth in the first half. And it really was close. And I thought coming out of it, it's going to be like, minor adjustments here, there, could kind of swing it. Whereas it was just all Lapel. So what is your read on what happened at the change of direction, which changed the game so drastically? Or is there nothing?
Well, no, I think one of the things, and this is a little under the radar, and it actually happened before Lanaya's little burst at the end of the half, was Sam Sears comes off the bench and hits those back-to-back threes. When Lapel started, I think they'd missed their first 6 threes. Both teams were struggling offensively. It was a defensive struggle. She hits those. I think that kind of calmed everybody down, that no, we can make some shots. And as Coach Newby said in the post-game interview, people don't necessarily see it on the stat sheet, but Addie Bodenhorn is a tremendous shooter. They see it in practice. I've seen it in games in spurts. I've never seen it. Saw it yesterday. I think twice she hit back-to-back threes. She hits 5. Really, she owned the fourth quarter. Like she scored 13 of her 18 points in the fourth as Lapel started to pull away, and then that thing got snowballing. And I think Rensselaer just looked confused. I mean, to kind of circle back to your question, sorry, I know I hate it when coaches do that to me, but yeah, to kind of circle back, but I think once it got going, once that momentum shifted over to Lapel, Rensselaer, I think, panicked and really started to lose the shooters because Bodenhorn was just open every time down the court.
Rob, you and I have talked about it, but I mean, there's depth beyond Lanaya. Like, it's not household names, but it's kids who just find ways to deliver. And it's kind of been it's almost like a 2-year process where it's like last year, Newby saw the potential in these kids, and Lanaya, it was working with Lanaya, teaching her how to lead in an effective way. And now we see the fully formed, not only of Lanaya's development as a leader, but the impact that it has on those younger kids now who are older, a year older, and ready to step up, like an Addie Bodenhorn, et cetera, to deliver in those moments. Would you agree with that analysis?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, you've covered Lanaya as long as I have. I mean, she always struck me as just being that kid, right? I mean, somebody who's really talented, obviously, physically, but has a really good head on her shoulders, recognizes how important she is to that team, but not in a self-centered, egotistical way, right? She knows she has to play well for Lapel to win, but she also knows she can't do it herself. So she has been a mentor to these younger kids, bringing them along. And, she always talks about how important Addie Bodenhorn and Layla Dawson, their point guard, who doesn't score much, but, takes care of the ball. And the newcomer Serenity Conyers, who's been such a huge boost to them via the transfer portal. I don't know if that's what we're calling it, but that's a kid who idolizes Lanaya since she was little. They both live in Anderson, and Serenity was a big fan of Lanaya as a little girl growing up. 3 years behind Lanaya. So I think there is a lot of that, and Connor's getting to come over play. There were times early in the season it was almost like a little starstruck that she gets to play with her idol, so to speak. But her growth during the season has been huge, and Lanaya is no small part of that.
Last game, Rob, Oak Hill, Alexandria. Looked like it was a close game, but Alex wasn't able to pull it out.
Yeah, it was, for me, that was the game right before I went down to Greenfield for the Pendleton game. I really felt like I watched the same game two in a row. I mean, Alec, they just got beat by Oak Hill at the end of the regular season, pretty one-sided. It was a bad day for Alec. They felt like they were not going to have the same game, and they didn't. They definitely played better, but they also fell behind 10-0. They had to overcome that. Talking to Coach Hosier after the game, apparently there was some flu bug going through the locker room a little bit, so they were dealing with that. And to overcome all that, come all the way back, take a lead, and it looked to me like they got tired there at the end. And I thought that in real time, and then hearing from Coach that they were all dealing with a virus or whatever, that kind of fit, because Daisy Bivens hits a 3, and then Grace Wood, who was so big in that sectional, hits a 3, and they're up 4. They have the ball. They run over a minute off the clock, not standing around holding it. I mean, they were moving the ball around, looking for an open shot. It just wasn't there. And then Oak Hill, it happens so fast too. Oak Hill gets a steal, layup and a foul, missed the free throw, offensive rebound, another foul, hits one free throw, misses the free throw, gets another offensive rebound, and then a score. And in a matter of probably 25, 30 seconds of game time, it went from a 4-point lead to about a 7-point or a 5-point deficit. And, Alec just didn't have the legs in him to recover for that. It was tough. It was tough. I mean, it's tough. You cover kids for a long enough time, you grow to like them. And when you see it end like that, it's tough. And I got to see it twice yesterday. It was a tough afternoon for a couple of these teams.
That was a remarkable run by Mickey Hosier to get that team. I mean, I can't imagine anybody really expecting them to have the success that they had, considering that they graduated Jacqueline, such a historic player and Indiana All-Star for that program. I don't think anybody could have predicted this. Am I wrong in saying that?
No. I think there were similar story over at Pendleton Heights, although Pendleton Heights does have the junior the underclass All-Star to kind of fill those shoes. But yeah, there were questions. I mean, it wasn't just Hosier. I mean, she was the headliner of a pretty good senior class. And this was a very young team, benefited a little bit maybe from a pretty soft sectional, but they played well all year, and they were so much better at the end of the year than they were at the start. They graduate a couple starters, but Conley Davidson's back, Layla Dietzer's back, Grace Wood is back. Those are the top 3 scorers. There might be a team to watch next year. Maybe this might be a year early for them to really challenge for a regional title, but they could be a team to keep an eye on next year.
Good stuff, Rob. Well, thanks for hopping on with us, buddy. I might be seeing you up next weekend for Lapel. We'll see where the bingo ball send us.
Yes, exactly. It's always a treat to hang out with you guys and then go watch the ping pong balls.
Good talking to you, buddy. I'll see you soon.
You bet. Take care. Anytime.
Rob Hunt of the Herald Bulletin with us. Danny, go
Real
ahead.
quick note on so you had Oak Hill was the team that beat Alexandria. Here they are in the semi-state. I did want to be able to mention, because we finally came up with the name of that second post player to pair with Miley Waring.
Oh, yeah.
At Fort Wayne Lures 2 years ago, they had 2 6-foot post players. It was Miley Waring and Addie Shank. My apologies to the Shank family, and my apologies to Addie specifically, but those were the 2 kids that led Fort Wayne Lures to the state championship. We had foreshadowed that Oak Hill does have the same kind of roster construction as that state championship basketball team. Brianna Daly and Morgan Cates are now in the 3rd weekend, and do not be surprised if we talk about them in the preview show quite a bit.
Absolutely. Well, Danny, we're going to shift the focus here down south. Some really good games in the Evansville area for Kyle Sokeland yesterday. Kyle's on with us now. Kyle, I know that your day ended early, but I think you may have had the most chaotic day of any of us.
Yeah, I messaged you guys saying, like, at least I don't have a 7 p.m. tip, and I got that bit me hard because I had an overtime and a game that went down to the wire.
Yeah, poor you. Let's start with the overtime game. Washington takes down Evansville Central 47-43. Danny and I had the stream up at Greencastle. First semi-state trip for Washington since '97, and the first for Gretchen Miles, the head coach. Just general takeaways from that contest.
Yeah, a literal fight, not physically, but just a battle, because there was, I think, over 30 combined turnovers. They kept giving the ball away, especially at the end of regulation, because someone just needed to make a play to win the game, and it was finally Washington. And I think just my biggest takeaway with them is that's just they did what they do best, which is just literally not ground the ball into the floor, but just make it tough for the opponent to win. And I think that matches Gretchen, honestly, probably back to her playing days and how she coaches. But they made a lot of key defensive plays. I mean, Shea Hawk was incredible on the perimeter in that regard, and she came up with a big steal. I mean, but just hats off to Washington, because they made Central earn it. Every bucket and just literal down to the last possession.
So if you just turn the overtime game on, I mean, so it's like, I don't know, 38, 37, 37. Like, it's you reference, like it's a low scoring, mucky, grimy game. Like, it was not aesthetically pleasing per se. But if you just watch the overtime, Washington executed really, really well in the overtime. They got layups. They were playing through the right people. What changed in the overtime period in relation to what you were talking about? How were they able to get it together? Or was it just, I don't know. Let me hear your thoughts on that.
I think they just stopped turning the ball over, for one.
Yeah, okay.
Because, again, at the end of regulation, there were 3 turnovers in the last 30 seconds, and 2 of them was Washington. So, I mean, Central had a chance to win because of that, and they finally settled down. I mean, Kyra Shuckman, who's not the household name in that lineup, made 2 big buckets on the block. I think Katie Reed had an and one. Shea Hawk and London Gilly, I know, made 2 free throws at the end to make it a 4-point game. I just think they finally calmed down and played like the upperclassmen they are.
On a wild play, by the way, because the Gilly free throws were preceded by a wide open, uncontested warm-up layup drill that, you know, and listen, I think it might have been Shea who got the steal, right? Wheels it out, wheels the 3 seconds. But you put a ton of pressure on London Gilly to step up and make those free throws to bail you out on that decision. Like, I'm not saying it was the wrong decision. It ended up being the correct one because they made both free throws. But you talk about some of the kids, Shuckman, Reed, Hawk, Gilly, we talk about how she's an old junior. What is different about this Washington basketball? I mean, these are the same kids that have been there the whole time, but they just get out now. They start to deepen their run now. In your estimation, to your eye, covering them all year, what is different about this basketball team that got them to this point? Here's that play, by the way.
Yeah.
She doesn't take the layup and then wheels it out.
Gretchen, I wouldn't say Gretchen was yelling at her, but she definitely pulled her aside and had like a heart-to-heart moment. Like, it's okay to take that layup. I don't know. It just, I know you guys have mentioned a lot, but this group is seniors. I know they lost several last year from that team. I think you look at that Princeton loss maybe a month ago, or at least in early January. I know Gretchen has harped on it. Like, that woke them up. Like, that literally your season can end with the wrong performance. And they've just been mission driven since then to get it done. And it was just impressive how they showed resolve and the right mindset in that overtime to pull ahead.
So I'm going to ask you to answer this question after injecting truth serum, and then Hank will move us on to another game. We talked about how the 3A South was a jumbled mess. Okay. It is now Washington that came out of the mix. Are you surprised, or is this who you thought was going to be in the third weekend all along out of 3A South?
I'm not surprised. All that depends on the draw, because what if Washington or Central gets the Jennings County?
Yep.
Because we just saw them beat Silver Creek and Greensburg. So At the same time, Washington's an older team. They've got talent. They've got 2 1,000-point scorers, a coach that's been there for almost 20 years. I mean, they've got the pieces that you would probably want in February. It's just it all depends on what you do with it, because they've been there last 6 years. They've been there 4 or 5 times and lost each time. Like last 2 years, it was to Gibson Southern when they went on to the state championship victory. Last year was I think it was Greensburg, and they made it. They were undefeated all the way up until Cambridge. So it's just maybe it's their time.
Yeah. Kyle, your first game there was dandy too. You had North Knox overcoming Mater Dei, another similar kind of rock fight. It felt like in at times. I know that you enjoy those types of games, but most of us do not find those as aesthetically pleasing. But Miley Leroy comes up big, the senior for North Knox.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have picked a senior on that team to make the play, it would have been Primus or
McClure,
Richter, or McClure fouled out, so it couldn't have been her.
That's right.
But then it's Millie Leroy in the corner. She made 4 threes in that game. And I think 3 in the fourth quarter. So Steve just talked about at halftime that one of you needs to step up, make a shot, and give us some sort of cushion, because Mater Dei was making it the type of game they want. They wanted to make it slow and just grimy and mucky and miserable, honestly, to play in. And Leroy, I think he was down. I think they were down 1 when she gets the ball in the corner, swish. And then later they just keep getting stops, and Premise makes 4 free throws to ice it. So, yeah, that's seniors. I mean, we harp on it all year, but it's seniors making plays.
Was it really just that Mater Dei, just the way they run their 3-2 zone? Like, is there anything unique that they do that had North Knox and fits, or is it just Mater Dei's style of play?
I think that's just all what they've done all year. I know Steve mentioned that they struggled against that at post game, but I've seen Mater Dei all year. They did it to South Knox way back in November. They did it to Roncalli a little bit in that game at Evansville North. So that's just what they want. They're probably not going to score 60 to 65 points a game, but they'll hold you under 40 pretty easily, just because they've got athletes on the perimeter. They've got side length, at least inside, to make it tough to get the ball in. And honestly, they could be a team makes a similar run next year, because a lot of them are juniors. So if they can just make the next step of improvement, we could be talking about them again. I think that North Knox just had to weather it and just find a way.
I have talked about North Knox, I don't want to say quite a bit, but more so than Mater Dei, and we'll have an opportunity to preview them. I'm pretty knowledgeable, I feel like, now about what they do. So punctuate the Mater Dei season for me, and do it in this fashion. You mentioned the free throw shooting of Primus down the stretch. That was also coupled with the fact that Mater Dei wasn't making free throws down the stretch. I had talked about how they are one of the best defensive teams, in relative to their class. But they have these stretches, like, in the first half of the sectional championship game, when they were like 1 for 10 from 3 and 3 for 22 from the field, and the free throw shooting was obviously a storyline. Tell us what we need to win the basketball game. It just maybe the ball didn't go down, or am I missing that? Did North Knox just kind of outclass them? But punctuate this from a Mater Dei perspective for me.
Yeah. Again, I think credit to Terry Misterman, because he came in. I don't remember if it was late, but he's like, I think you guys talked to Izzy and Addie during the week. This was their 3rd coach in 4 years, 4th and 5, if you consider when Chad Breeden was there and he had to step away just because of health reasons. They match the intensity of their coach. He wants you to play hard. Terry wants you to play hard, and he wants you to play, like a better word, the right way, whatever that may be. But they matched their coach and got after you defensively. Offensively, yes, they were a bit limited at times. Izzy can get hot from the perimeter. Leah Heldman played really well over the last couple weeks to put them in this position. They just probably need to find a ways to finish shots. You got to score the basketball at least somewhat to win a game.
We should expect to see them back there too, right?
I think so. Yes,
Boots is, all due respect,
senior,
that's all you lose, right?
They lose a couple other off the bench, but the 4 of the 5 in the lineup are back.
Gotcha.
So I would expect them, especially with the way they can play defensively. It's just, if you can get some more improvement on the offensive side, maybe find someone else to match on the perimeter, at least shooting, it could be a very good team in 2A.
Kyle, one last game we wanted to touch on with you, and that was Evansville Reitz. Bailey Hape, 14 points in the fourth quarter. I think I asked her about that when she was on the show last time, about kind of feeling an obligation as a senior to step up her game a little bit come this time of year. And she kind of downplayed it, deflected, as players are wont to do, keep praising her teammates. But it's like the third game in a row now where that kid's come up with a monster performance to get them through to the next round.
Yeah, I had the game on because it was like it started an hour before the Monterey game. So it was on the computer in the corner of my eye, just looking at score. But I went and watched it last night when I got home. Fourth quarter, they just literally give Bailey the ball, 4 players on the baseline. She's going to win it or lose it. And she had 14 points, I think 4 for 4 from the field, 8 of 8 from the line, a couple of assists. And that's paired with a defense that just shut Columbus down over the last 8 minutes. So, yeah, it was Bailey Hape being one. I think she's only one of 4 or 5 in program history to score 1,000 points. So she's possibly one of the best players that Reitz has had.
Reitz is – go ahead, Danny. I'm sorry.
No, so I want to add to that. You went deep on Hape, and the 18 or whatever it was, I think in the fourth quarter was really good. They didn't. Reitz flipped to the 1-3-1 in the fourth quarter, where they ran it sparingly, if at all, in the first 3 quarters. And Columbus North seemingly, Hank, like they forgot how to break pressure. Like it was, I would go as far as to say this, and this is my personal view of the basketball game. When they flipped to the 1-3-1, because Columbus North was up by 4 points on Damon Bailey Court, and Reitz is on the ropes, and they flipped to the 1-3-1. I actually said to myself, oh no, Reitz is in trouble, because Harmon isn't going to turn it over. She doesn't miss open threes. She didn't miss open threes in that game. And when you pitch the basketball and play through the middle, you're going to give up threes on the weak side in a 1-3-1. And it was absolutely the opposite of that. They turned them over. They couldn't get across half court. So in addition to what Soak said about Bailey Hape's offensive performance, Coach Stone's 1-3-1 defense coupled, and that's why they're moving on. They just played a great fourth. Anyway, sorry.
I counted it. It was 6 turnovers from Columbus in the fourth quarter when I was rewatching the game.
6s.
And one player I need to mention in that was Kirsten Kaiser, because she was up near the top of that, and she had back-to-back steals that resulted in and ones at the other end that flipped everything, because they were down 4 and suddenly they're up 4 or whatever after she made the second one. So that's Reitz. They usually a defensive-minded team all year. They just have to get the right performance offensively from different people. But yesterday, like you said, flip to that press, flip to that zone, whatever you want to call it, 1-3-1, 3-2, 2-3, whatever it was in the moment. That was Reitz.
Awesome. Well, Kyle, enjoy the upcoming selection show. I know that you and I enjoy it the same amount, and that is a lot. So have fun. I'll be talking to you here later this afternoon, I'm sure.
So it's number 10 of 40 this year?
Yeah, that's great. I'm really excited for it. It's fun. This one's great because we get to see the balls go through this machine.
Yeah,
it's great.
Oh, they actually show the ping pong balls?
And for the semi-state one, they do.
Yeah, it's not as exciting as you would think, unless you're into that kind of thing, in which case it's probably a blast. But thanks, Soak. Get some rest, buddy, and we'll talk here soon.
All right. See you guys.
See you, bud.
Kyle Sokeland with us here on the Scores Table. Danny will be joined by Kyle Smedley here in just a minute. Once Kyle's camera shows back up on screen, he had a wild day too. I think he probably had the biggest upset of anybody in our little network, maybe in the state, with Marquette Catholic going down. You also have Penn falling to Crown Point. And Northridge advancing with a win over Valparaiso. Just a crazy day.
I watched all 3 of those with the exception of the Marquette Catholic game. I didn't see the Marquette Catholic game, but I'm very anxious to get into Fremont as we preview these games spinning forward.
That'll be a fun one. Smed, you're muted, bud.
Well,
Hi, Kyle.
I was waiting my turn. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's good. What's the word?
It's the busiest time of the year, at least in my short time here at the Tribune so far. It's been really busy, especially with my responsibilities with Notre Dame women's basketball, hence the reason why I'm wearing a shirt and tie right now. I just got done with a photo shoot for a feature I'm working on, which is why I'm in the car. So yes, anything to make this work. And I was actually just telling Milt Lee, who is the athletic director across South Bend Community School Corporation. He oversees all Riley, Adams, and Washington. I was just telling them like days like yesterday where, I'm trying to keep track of boys wrestling semi-state, girls swimming state, and then I have 2 in-person girls basketball regional games, to cover. Like in the moment, it's a lot and it can borderline be overwhelming. But then like when the day is over, like Saturday night on the drive home, and then especially like Sunday morning, the next morning, you're like, man, that was a lot of fun. And like those are the days, why you do this job. So I love this time of year. Even before I was like in the industry, I loved this time of year, just like watching this type of stuff. And got two really good games to cover yesterday. I mean, Marquette Catholic and Fremont was not exactly the way that game went. You almost could have predicted it to go the complete opposite in terms of Marquette Catholic having Fremont on its heels the whole time and kind of doing what we thought they were going to do, but Fremont flipped the script completely. Fremont really, I mean, other than Marquette Catholic having an advantage within about the first 4 or 5 minutes of the first quarter, other than that, once Fremont started to punch back, they just kept punching and had Marquette against the ropes for the entire rest of the game, and you never really saw, even though it ended up becoming a 2-point game, late in the third, early in the fourth, it didn't ever feel like that. It always just kind of felt like Fremont's game, which again was just very surprising. Now, obviously, they have a really good player in Maya Turner. She's a junior, dropped 20 plus points yesterday, surpassed 1,000 career points. But with Marquette Catholic, they obviously have one of the state's best players in Lania Davis, 2,000 point scorer, Northern Illinois commit, and she's a senior. She went to the state finals with this group 2 years ago. Went to semi-state last year, and so I was surprised, I guess, in how the team didn't necessarily. And I think anyone would tell you this. Katie Collignan certainly told us this after the game. Like, that's not what you expect from a team that has kind of been in those games before, right? Like, you expect them to be able to compose themselves and regain that confidence that maybe Fremont took from them in the beginning, and that just didn't happen.
Yeah, and not only that too, but it's played a tough schedule. I mean, their only losses prior to this were against 4A teams. Like you and I talked about this. Like those are probably going to be their only losses of the season until they get to Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Like that was shocking.
They lost. Yesterday was their 4th loss of the season, and all 3 of their regular season losses came within a 24-hour window, and they were all, like you said, against 4A teams or Greensburg, who was the state runner-up in 3A last year. Like, and Marquette Catholic beat Crown Point in the regular season. Crown Point's going to semi-state. Marquette Catholic beat them. That's a 4A team that beat Penn yesterday, and Marquette Catholic beat them. Marquette Catholic beat Elkhart Christian, another team that's going to semi-state in 1A. Like, this is a team that it's not like they breezed through an easy regular season schedule. Like, no, this was a team that was battle tested, not just in the past, but this season. And I was really surprised maybe to see that, Fremont just about played as good of a game as it could have. And unfortunately, Marquette Catholic, in my eye, played about as bad as they possibly could have yesterday.
Is there any other takeaways, I guess, from your conversation with Collignan after the game, Kyle?
She was upset, obviously. Anyone would be. I don't blame her for that. I think the thing that stuck out to me was like, it was the lead of my story, cheap plug, but like she was just like, I didn't have an end of season speech prepared today because I just didn't think like, and it wasn't a disrespect towards Fremont. She was very clear that they took the scouting seriously, but they just felt that they had the horses and they had, the personnel and the coaching to beat Fremont, who is a good team, that she didn't have an end of the season speech prepared. She was not ready to say goodbye to players like Lania Davis or Addison Pennzoil, but it happened. She herself said it. We picked a bad day to have a bad day, and that was kind of my takeaway before I even talked to her. Like, again, I don't know if they could have played. It sounds harsh, but I don't know if they could have played worse under the circumstances yesterday. And I think that says a lot to how good they are, where it was a 1 or 2 possession game almost the whole way, aside from, the past 3 minutes, and still it felt like they didn't play well at all.
That's I got a text from Austin Huff, and I'll move us up here to 4A here in just a second. But that was a tough text to me. I think they were down 6 or whatever it was. They were within single digits going to the fourth quarter, despite everything that was going wrong, despite Lanai Davis being in foul trouble early on, like all these things that were snowballing. It's like they were still right there. So I was just kind of like, okay, we've seen this movie before. They'll prevail. But credit to Fremont, they didn't let it happen.
I felt that way at halftime, right? Like Marquette was trailing at halftime, and I was like, you know what? They'll be fine. Like they'll come out of halftime focused and realize, like, hey, okay, Fremont is packing more of a punch maybe than. I mean, Fremont in the first half felt like they couldn't miss a shot, and you felt like it was going to even out, and you felt like Marquette Catholic was going to respond. And again, I guess that makes me remember something that Katie also said was just, when she went into the locker room at halftime, that's kind of when she knew, like, oh no, we might not be we might not be in a good position here, because she went into the locker room and she felt like her team was discouraged when maybe in her eyes they shouldn't have been. I mean, they were only down 6 at halftime. And I think that was maybe when I realized, when they came out of the third quarter flat, when I thought it was going to be the other way around, that, man, they're going to have trouble beating Fremont.
Yeah. Let's jump up to Class 4A. You had a tremendous game there. Northridge Valparaiso, 51-50 decided on free throws in the final second. Danny's made the comparison to last year's Lawrence North State Championship team, and just that they got over the hump in Warsaw in the sectional championship game, and now it's just kind of like they're free rolling. Last night was, just an excellent win over a really good Valparaiso team. I'll let you two carry the conversation from here.
Well,
you want to go first, Danny?
I'll give you a break. I mean, it looked like Lily Scholl's coming off the 42, okay? And that's what everybody wanted to talk about. And then she has, 10 or a dozen in the first quarter. And you're like, this is what it's going to be, a Lily Scholl night again. But it wasn't. Like Allie Ambers, it was her night. And I'm very happy and proud to be able to highlight her and give her a bouquet, because I think I called her like Amy Albers, I think, through an entire episode earlier. But Allie Ambers made big play after big play. I have no idea what the statistics bear out, but she was probably 4 of 6-ish, 5 of 7-ish from the 3-point line. She had huge and ones. She looks like a great teammate. I'll digress a little bit. I just wanted to talk about her. Like, she did things last night, like Scholl would get an and one, or Yater would get an and one, and she would be like exuberantly cheering and clapping, like leaping off of her feet. She gets an and one, which was a monster play. Like, after a steal, she gets the and one. She's like, everybody's trying to celebrate with her in the same way. And she's like, calm down. Like, let's go on to the next play. Like, that kid has to be just playing with such confidence. Tell us what Allie Ambers has been like the whole year, because we are catching up. That kid was one of my favorite kids to watch in the entire day yesterday was Allie Ambers. Can you talk about her, please?
Yeah, she just in terms of what she brings purely from a on-court standpoint, in terms of just her ball skills, like, she is their sharpshooter, and that was not a surprise. Like, she is their three-point go-to. She had 4 threes yesterday, which you pointed out, and that last one put them up 50-47. They ended up winning 51-50. So, without that last, the credit in terms of the actual game-winning point goes to fellow junior Zoe Yater, who hit the game-winning free throw. But without that 3 from Allie, who knows, that they might not win the game. They probably don't win the game. And I think just it's Allie, but it's just the junior class in general. Like, Scholl's a junior, like I said, Yater's a junior, Ambers is a junior, and they all play like seniors, and they play like they've been here before, even though, I know they won a sectional in their freshman year, but they haven't really been in games like this where the season is on the line against 2 of the state's top 10 teams in Warsaw and Valparaiso back to back.
Yeah.
I think Ambers is such a good player because of exactly what you said, and I noticed it after that and one, where her teammates are like mobbing her and like shaking her, and she's kind of like expressionless. She's just like, okay, I think her mind probably was just, I got to go to the free throw line and make my free throw. Like she wasn't like, yeah, she wasn't necessarily celebrating the layup maybe until after she hit the free throw. I think if I remember it right, she was the first one to like, when Barnes missed that long 3-point attempt to end the game. I'm pretty sure the first person's arms to shoot up in the air were Allie Amber's. I mean, she was watching the ball the whole way, and when she saw it was no good, it meant a lot to her. And this team really feels like, I said, and if Doug Springer hears this, he might not be happy, but I just was like, it's really hard to pull off 2 upsets like that back to back. Like after you beat Warsaw, it's really hard to do it again the next week and do it again. Like, you almost feel like you used all of your Cinderella magic in 1 week, but I think at this point calling them a Cinderella story might be a disservice to how good they actually are, and how, what, maybe we shouldn't be calling them upsets, and maybe they just are as good as Warsaw and Valparaiso, and who's to say now? I mean, in 4A, like if they draw a Crown Point, and it's not a disrespect to Crown Point, but I think if Northridge draws Crown Point in the first round, I'd be really surprised if we don't see Northridge in the semi-state championship game. And then when you play McCutcheon or Norwell off of only a few hours rest and hardly any scouting, that's anyone's game. So I think with just the way Northridge is playing right now, don't be surprised if they make a state championship run, and a lot of the credit also needs to go to Doug. I mean, he's the second winningest girls basketball coach in the state for a reason.
And I also feel like the Conley injury is supposed to have an adverse effect than what is happening, but it seems to be a rallying cry. They seem to have galvanized around her. Conley is coaching her. She's coaching her butt off on the sidelines, like as a great teammate. We're literally watching Northridge's team next year. Sometimes, Kyle, and Hank too, like sometimes teams get hot, sometimes they have rallying cries, and sometimes coaches get hot. I thought Doug has been really good the last couple of 2 games. This team is channeling. I mean, and the comment is aging well. I'm not bringing it up again so we can celebrate what we said, but it is aging in a way that you're right, Kyle. This isn't a surprise. Like, I'm not sure that I want to see them right now, because their individual scout assignment and execution and their roster is, now that we're more familiar with it, is filled with Reekseckers and Ambers and Scholes and kids that can go out and get 42 and kids that will make open threes, and that community around them. You can see it. Like, this will be my last point, Hank, then you can get us on to the next game. Like, I had it all. Like, there's little girls everywhere giving their phone to Lily Scholl, giving their phone to Allie Ambers. They're on the floor taking selfies with them. Everyone's there. It looked like it was the beginning of a parade. That community, I'm telling you, they're going to take over wherever they go in semi-state. Middlebury, Indiana is taking that over.
Oh, yeah.
Kyle, quick thought from you on Penn, Crown Points. You can get to Notre Dame, and Danny and I can wrap this thing up before that selection show in 25 minutes.
Yeah. I had heard that, Penn is a young team, right? Like they're young to begin with, and they've had 3 girls out this year with knee injuries who all would have, if not been I mean, Macy Little was a starter, and I think Anna would have been a starter. And then, you have just three people who would have gotten significant minutes. Again, Macy Little was getting them before she got hurt midseason. And you're already young to begin with surrounding that. Like, their best player this year was a freshman in Jillian Sanderson, and she's a great player, but it's tough when you're that young of a team to just, when the pressure's on like that. They had already beat Crown Point. And so there's almost more pressure, in my opinion, on Penn going into that game than there is Crown Point. Like, you have to back it up. You have to beat them again. Whereas Crown Point, obviously they're playing with a lot to lose because, if you lose, your season's over. But I would say they were playing with less to lose than Penn, in a sense where you're just trying to prove that you can hang with a team that's already beat you. And Penn has to prove that you're good enough to beat a good team twice. it's tough. Penn's gonna be back next year, hopefully healthier and a year older. And Christy will get it figured out. She's she's a great coach. She's a good enough coach to where, I wouldn't be surprised if they practice tomorrow. In preparation for next season, I wouldn't be surprised if Penn practices tomorrow. But yeah, I was surprised. I thought Penn was going to win that game. But Crown Point's a good team, and again, I do probably just think it comes down to experience.
Yeah.
Brad Stengel, I'll make one quick point. I know we're up against the clock. Brad Stengel was really good because Coach K doesn't make it easy. Like, she was doing really exotic stuff, like 1-2-2 dropping into man when Ava got rid of the ball to full denial. But this is now the third time I've seen Crown Point on film be absolutely precise in their late game execution, and that is a reflection of the kids, their implementation, and the coaching on the sidelines. Crown Point's moving on because they just made more plays down the stretch from an execution perspective. Maybe speaks to the youth of Penn, but it definitely speaks to the coaching of Crown Point.
Agreed.
Thanks for hopping on with us, Kyle, and safe travels to you, buddy. Hopefully I'll be seeing you here in a couple weeks.
Thank you both for having me. I appreciate it.
See you, Smedley.
Kyle Smedley of the South Bend Tribune. Up against a little bit here, final 20 minutes of the show before the semi-state selection show. A couple small school games, Danny, that I wanted to run through before we jump up and dive into the last 3A4 games I wanted to. Tindley upset Trinity Lutheran 46-44 in triple overtime yesterday. That one, I woke up to that one this morning as I was scrolling, and I think I texted you immediately with some eye emojis because that one really surprised me. I have some names here. I was able to screen the last bit of that game. Let me see here. Let's see. They come back from a 4-point deficit with less than a minute left in the second overtime period with 3-pointers from Ariana Hall and Chantel Shockley, their leading scorer. And then in the third overtime, it's tied at 42, and you get a 3-point play from Kayla Leith off an offensive rebound. They're on to semi-state for the first time since 2018, Tindley is, and another of the top contenders in Class A is out. Yesterday was just a really good day in Borden. While they're beating up on Orleans and not leaving much room for drama, you have Marquette Catholic going down, then you have Trinity Lutheran going down. Another game of note that surprised me, Greenwood Christian 61, Tri 45. It didn't really surprise me. I take that back. Greenwood Christian's a battle-tested team, and not unlike their soccer team, for those who followed my coverage during soccer season over the years, the record isn't glamorous, but it's because they're playing a bunch of really good teams, and this is the time of year when you see that pay off. Greenwood Christian beat Tri 61-45. Danny, let's go north. Let's talk about McCutcheon, Hamilton, Southeastern, because that was one that did surprise me a little bit. I'll be honest. And looking back, I don't think that it should have. And it's because when you really think about McCutcheon, it's just like their depth is more experienced than HSE's. And that's the theme all season. That was the theme and why HSE got through, just because of the way that they built their experience. But McCutcheon had the benefit of these kids playing on this regional, on the semi-state stage in years past. And I think that kind of helped lifted them, because that game, I had it up on screen during the Roncalli Cathedral game. It wasn't much of a contest. A really impressive effort by McCutcheon.
It's pretty dominating. It was, I think I would say two things in regards to this game. The defensive game plan of Jeff Canoy was on point. I think he nailed it. Now, I'm going to qualify those statements here in a second. Okay. But Lily Graves played Holman below pack line. Okay, so they congested off of help line into the middle of the paint. The second thing that I would point out, that's a difficult look for Holman off of the top of the key. Coach Satterfield and HSC do a good job of moving her around. She did have some wing attacks, but when she was able to get to the front of the rim, there was a dedicated effort to go straight up and down and not clip her. And they did their fair share of fouling of KK Holman, but for the most part, they made her take contested shots that weren't going down. That is all fine and dandy, okay, until HSC starts making shots. And Jeff knew that at some point in time that was going to happen and that he was going to shift off of that. Oh my gosh, I hate saying this. They just never did. They just never did. And when you are a basketball team, and I can tell you this from preparing for games like this, I would say this, okay? When you put in a game plan for an entire week and you say, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to bother them, and this is how we're going to rebound, and this is where and then it works, you feel invincible. I think it carried over into the offensive side. I have no idea. I haven't seen a box score. I don't care about the stats. I don't know what Lily Graves did, but she was really good. Like, yes, Lipscomb Allen carried the mail from a scoring perspective. You could tell that very early. But Lily Graves' ability to create for Chloe Finney and the defensive attention that she gathered so Lipscomb Allen could make shots. I think those are the things that I would talk about, but it is McCutcheon moving on. I think you're right. Nobody should be surprised, but no Warsaw, no Homestead, no HSC like that North. Whew.
It's fun. It's different. It's fun.
It is fun.
20 points for Kira Lipscomb Allen, 14 for Graves. She did most of her damage there in the third and fourth quarters, helping to close that thing out.
How many did Chloe Finney?
Yes, 7 points for her. I was just getting her, and then 9 for Trinity Wilburn.
7. That all probably all on assists too. I would imagine Chloe Finney probably didn't create. Yeah, I mean, and look, you can say Case Arena, you can say this. Like at the end of the day, McCutcheon's defensive game plan was on point. Actually, I got a text from Jeff Canoy, and he was like, the kids just did exactly what we talked about. Like he nailed it. He nailed it. Congratulations to McCutcheon. Congratulations to Coach Canoy. Congratulations to Lily Graves and company, because you're in the third weekend again. I'm going to point it out again this is the second time in as many years that they've been here.
Fingers crossed for Mira Gibson. She was injured. She had a contact injury with KG Holman underneath the basket yesterday during the game. She had twisted her ankle about a year ago. So they're waiting to see the doctor today. Hopefully good news on Amira Gibson for McCutcheon. One other game that Danny and I wanted to touch on here before we get out of here and let everybody get to their semi-state watch parties. Jennings County, man, 62-51 over Silver Creek. This time it was Molly Ernstis doing it as a scorer. She finished with a grand total of 29 points, 12 rebounds, 6 steals, and a couple assists just for good measure. Man, it just every time a little bit of wrinkle of doubt or questioning of Jennings County comes in, like against Greensburg, because they've got some talented players. Against Silver Creek, we've talked about them a lot. It's just, I mean, they prove you wrong, and they don't waste time in proving you wrong. They just get right to it. And to this week, it was the Molly Ernstis game.
It was Riley Byford and Etta Young. 2 kids that were really big in the Jennings County win over Warsaw, the sectional final where Ernstis had like 14, 12, and 11. They've been really good. It was actually Byford who was the beneficiary, I think, of a behind-the-back pass that Molly had. Etta Young was the one that closed it out. I think she had the final 6 points, I think, for Jennings County. But I had called Grayson Gilliard maybe the most difficult individual player to guard. Molly Ernstis is going to have a lot to say about that. The 29 that she got, not all 29s are created equal. The degree of difficulty, like somebody will do it. They'll just put a reel together of just her makes. Like it's like 15-foot fadeaways, volleyball line threes. You know, there's somebody draped over her at all times. Like, this is what these kids do. Like, there was a possession. I should have mentioned it when we were talking about Center Grove, but there was a possession ATO where Nick Rogers actually came out in a triangle and 2 and put 2 players on Grayson Gilliard. That was the possession, by the way, that Lilia Tapak hit the 3 that tied the game. But that's what these kids do to you as the opposing coach. I'm not going to let you beat me. And Scott Shane's not new. He knew exactly what Molly was going to do. He had help all over the place. She's hitting literally circus shots. But yeah, I mean, Molly Ernstis right now, like Jason said something about it. Like she might just torch the 3A South. Just take a flamethrower to the whole damn thing. And because she is on a tear. But it was really impressive. I think that score surprised a lot of people. But if Molly continues to play this way, it shouldn't anymore.
The winner wasn't surprising. Like, it's not surprising to see Jennings County win because that was a tight matchup. It's the way that they controlled that game. Like, I had the stream pulled up, and it felt like they were in control every time that I glanced over and watched it. They held Silver Creek to 28% shooting in the first half, while Jennings County themselves shot 56% for the game. They outshot them 42% to 63% in the second half alone. Like, just a phenomenal effort. And we talk about teams kind of finding momentum in that sectional. and kind of using that as a launching pad. I think Jennings County is kind of finding that same thing, and they have that similar energy here after they finally broke through and clinched their sectional championship.
I talked about it with Northridge. I think Doug Springer's getting hot. Christy Sigler's also getting hot a little bit too. If you watch some of the adjustments, she seemed to be ahead of it. There was an ATO situation where they were face guarding Molly Ernstis because I think she had like 6 straight points or something like that. Scott's not going to let that. Shane's not going to let that happen, right? So he calls timeout. The ATO set that came out was a play that didn't work, but it does show that Christy's on it. It was a backdoor set for Molly Ernstis. Like she was like, they're going to deny you. They're going to this. And she tried to get a free layup. Like she's starting to feel really comfortable now with who she has and what she has. They're getting healthier. Molly Ernstis is playing at a incredible clip. But here's what I can tell you about Jennings County, and we will get to it when we preview the 3A South. But in the 3A South, I think Jennings County is going to have the most difficult matchup of anybody if as long as they're alive in the game. And that includes the North.
That's going to be really like this is a pretty consequential draw here of when you want to see teams, when you don't want to see teams. I'm really fascinated to see that. That's something that you and I'll be able to break down here in the coming days. Danny, I'll be back. We'll do the same thing as we did for regionals. We'll have a 2A Class A preview show. We'll have a 3A, 4A preview show during the week, and then we'll be back obviously after semi-states that following day, more than likely with a state championship preview and semi-state recap.
I just wanted to, before you, and you're getting ready to write us out and read us out, we cannot complete a show of regional weekend without at least mentioning Norwell. Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Norwell made, so I texted what I thought was going to happen. I think this is the possibility of watching some all-time stuff. Okay. Rossworm had, I don't know what it was. I'm not into the stat. 30, whatever, 8, not, I mean, like 38, 39, I think Saul, like Hank will go through the statistics, okay? But when we talked about Norwell in this round, we missed it again. Like they're so dominant right now. And Rossworm is shooting the ball better than maybe anybody, including Molly Ernstis, including Grayson Gillard. She's probably the player that's shooting it the best right now in the state. They put up 90 points. They're getting it from everywhere. They got rid of Snider. They have established themselves with their performance, and shame on us for it's like they should almost lead to the show almost because they are so dominant. But if they can get to downtown, the narrative of what we watched this season is completely different than what we had started it to be. Maybe this has been just a Norwell season and we're all just living in it and talking about it. So I just wanted to foreshadow that because they were brilliant yesterday. I think they won a 40-piece Snider with a top 20 player in the country in their class.
I switched off that stream fairly early because it was just all Norwell. Like they were just that dominant. 36 points for Vanessa Rossworm. She had 5 threes. Macy Salfrank also 5 threes. She had 25 points. Norwell advances. They're trying to do the impossible, as they phrased it, try to win that 4A state championship they're winning in 3A. And with how wide open it is in the North, I would almost argue that they're maybe the favorite going in just because they've been here before. The pieces that they have, like this is no fluke. Like we've seen this movie before, and we know what that defense is capable of. We saw it with Noblesville for years there when they had Reagan Wilson, Meredith Tipner, and now we've seen it too concurrently with Norwell when they've had Rossworm, Salfrank, Norris, Green, everybody, Waldman, everybody on that team just so bought in and raised in what Eric Thornton does over there at Norwell. It's going to be a really fun Saturday of games. I feel like this sets the stage for a really fun semi-state round. We're going to find out here in about 10 minutes who is heading where. So with that, I need to get ready to settle in and just really enjoy the hour-long extravaganza we have ahead of us. So we thank you all so much for watching. We hope this is a little bit more tolerable than that. For Danny Riego, my name is Brian Haenchen. We thank you all for watching. We'll talk to you again this week.